The deal begins. Jake Harper opened his eyes to the sound of the alarm. It was just another day on the edge of space. Or so he thought. He sat up in his bunk, rubbed his face, and looked around his small outpost. The mining station was quiet, cold, and lonely. He liked it that way. After the war, Jake wanted peace, not people. But today was different. A message blinked on his console. It wasn't from the company, not from Earth, not even from the nearby stations. The message looked old, strange, and full of symbols he didn't understand. Only one line was translated in English. It read, "Marry me, inherit my sisters. No takebacks." Jake stared at the screen, confused. Is this a joke? He whispered. The message repeated itself, this time glowing brighter. Then the lights in his outpost flickered. His radio crackled, and something landed outside. Boom! Dust flew up. The ground shook slightly. Jake grabbed his old plasma rifle and stepped outside. The red sky of the alien planet stretched above him, and in front of his station stood 3 women. But they weren't human. Tall, glowing skin, long silver hair, and eyes that shimmered like stars. Each one wore a cloak with different markings, and strange weapons on their backs. They looked powerful, confident, and not at all friendly. "You are Jake Harper," the one in the middle said. Her voice was smooth but strong. "We have come to complete the marriage." Jake blinked. What now?" The woman on the left stepped forward. "I am Ilara, first daughter of the House of Varex." She placed a glowing ring in his hand. "You are now bound to us." Jake took a step back. "Whoa, hold on. I didn't sign up for this." The third, one who had been silent, finally spoke. "You clicked accept on the contract," she said calmly. Jake frowned. "I didn't click anything." "You opened the message," she said. That was enough. Jake turned pale. Was this real? Some alien culture where opening a message meant agreeing to marry? This had to be a misunderstanding. "Look," Jake said slowly, "I think there's been a mistake. I'm just a miner, not a husband." The women looked at each other, then back at him. "You must marry one of us," Ilara said, "or the deal fails. And if it fails, our world will burn." Jake lowered his rifle. "You're serious?" The one called Ilara nodded. "This is not just about us," she said. "It's about peace between our worlds." Jake scratched his head. "Why me?" The sisters didn't answer right away. Then the middle one said, "Because you are the only human whose DNA matches the seal of the gate." Jake's heart skipped. "What gate?" They looked at the sky. A large shadow moved above the clouds. Jake hadn't noticed it before, but now he saw it clearly. A huge alien ship floated silently in the sky. Watching, waiting. "You are part of something bigger than you understand." The third sister said, "Marry one of us, inherit the bond, unlock the gate." Jake backed away. He didn't sign up for marriage, war, or alien politics. He just wanted to dig rocks and be left alone. But it was already too late. The ring in his hand pulsed with light. It had melted into his palm, leaving behind a mark glowing under his skin. "No takebacks," Ilara whispered. Jake stared at his hand. He didn't know what he had just agreed to, but he could feel it deep inside. His life had changed forever, from miner to husband, from soldier to chosen one, from peace into something much more dangerous. And somewhere, hidden behind the stars, an ancient force had just awakened, watching, waiting. Because the deal had begun, Sisters of Power Jake Harper couldn't sleep. The strange alien mark on his hand glowed softly in the dark. It wasn't painful, but it felt alive, like something inside him had been unlocked. He stared at the ceiling of his outpost. Outside, 3 powerful alien women slept in separate tents, or at least that's what they said. Jake didn't trust any of them. Not yet, they called themselves sisters, but they didn't act like family. They didn't speak to each other kindly. They didn't agree on anything, and they didn't want to marry him for love. They needed him for something else, something they weren't telling him. The next morning, Jake stepped out, and the tension hit him like a wall. Ilara, the warrior, was training with a plasma blade. Each swing cut through stone like butter. She noticed Jake watching and gave him a look that wasn't friendly. "You're late," she said. "Your body is weak. You need training." Before Jake could answer, the second sister appeared. Her name was Sivra. She had no weapons, no armor, just glowing blue eyes that stared into Jake's soul. "I felt your fear last night," she said, voice calm. Jake stepped back. "You read my mind?" She smiled slightly. Only the loud parts. Jake didn't like that. He had enough trouble trusting people before. Now one of his new wives could hear his thoughts. Then came the third sister, Nexa, the healer. She wore long robes and moved like smoke, silent, graceful, watching everything. Her hands glowed with soft light as she passed her palm over Jake's skin. "The bond is changing you," she said. "Faster than expected?" Jake looked at them all. 3 sisters? 3 powers, warrior, telepath, healer, and all of them wanted something from him. But he still didn't know what. Suddenly, an alarm rang from the station. Jake ran inside, the sisters behind him. The screen blinked red. Unknown life forms detected. Approaching fast outside, the wind rose. Dust clouds spun across the rocky plain. Shapes moved through the storm. Tall, armored, armed. "They found us," Ilara said, gripping her blade. "Who?" Jake asked, heart racing. "The exiled ones," Nexa whispered. "They want the bond broken." Within seconds, the attackers charged, dark figures with insect-like armor and glowing red eyes. They moved fast, too fast. Jake tried to fight. He fired his rifle, but they kept coming. Then Ilara leaped into the air, her blade spinning, cutting down 2 at once. Sivra raised her hand, and one enemy froze midair, screaming silently. Nexa whispered something, and Jake felt his wounds heal instantly. The sisters were deadly. Together, they were unstoppable. But even they looked worried after the fight. The leader of the attackers lay broken, but before dying, he said something strange. "You don't know what he is," he gasped, staring at Jake. "He will open the gate of blood." Jake froze. "What gate?" he asked, but the creature was already dead. Later, inside the outpost, Jake demanded answers. "What's the gate of blood?" Ilara looked away. Sivra didn't speak. Only Nexa replied, softly, "It's a prison, Jake. A prison holding something that should never be released." Jake's heart pounded. "So why are you bonding me to it?" Nexa touched his hand. "Because only you can decide," she said, "to open it or to keep it shut." Jake shook his head. "I didn't ask for this." Ilara stepped closer, eyes burning. "And we didn't ask to lose our world?" she snapped. "You think you're the victim?" The tension between them grew. Then suddenly, the room flickered. Lights blinked. Systems crashed. The walls shook. From the control screen came a voice Jake didn't recognize. It wasn't human. It wasn't alive. It said, "Seal 1 broken. Bond activated. Gate calibration in progress." Jake looked down. The mark on his hand was glowing brighter, and now it had 3 rings instead of 1. Each sister had completed part of the bond. The deal was real. The marriage was more than just a contract. It was a key to something ancient, something powerful, something dangerous. Jake wasn't just their husband. He was the gatekeeper, and soon he'd have to choose. Trust the sisters, or destroy them, because not all of them were telling the truth. The test begins. The stars above the mining outpost blinked like cold eyes. Jake Harper stood outside, staring at the sky. The mark on his hand pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. 3 rings glowed now, 1 for each sister. But something was missing. He could feel it. Inside the outpost, the alien sisters argued again. Louder this time, more tense. Jake didn't need Sivra to read their minds. He could feel the danger in the air. It wasn't just about marriage anymore. It was about survival. Nexa stepped outside, her face calm but her voice low. "The gate is waking," she said. Jake turned toward her. "And that's bad?" She nodded. "Very. Before it opens, you must pass the trial." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Trial?" No one said anything about a trial. Now Ilara stepped out, armor on, sword on her back. "It's ancient law," she said. 3 tests for the bonded one. Only then will the gate accept you." Jake laughed bitterly. "You're joking." But no one smiled. Sivra appeared last, already cloaked in shadows. "The first test begins at sunrise," she said. "If you fail, you die." Jake stared at them. "You all knew this was coming, didn't you?" None of them answered. That was answer enough. At dawn, they walked across the rocky valley. A broken structure lay half buried in the sand's ancient stone, mixed with glowing alien metal. A forgotten temple, lost in time. Its door opened as they approached, without touch, without sound. Inside, it was dark, cold, and alive. The walls pulsed faintly, like a sleeping beast. The sisters waited at the entrance. "You must go alone," Ilara said. Jake stared at them. "And if I don't?" "Then the gate rejects you," Nexa replied, "and your body will burn." Jake took a breath and stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind him. Complete darkness. Then a voice echoed through the stone. Not human, not alien, something in between. First, trial. Face the reflection. Light flickered ahead. A mirror, tall and cracked, stood in the center of the chamber. Jake stepped closer and gasped. The mirror showed him, but not who he was. It showed who he used to be. Jake saw himself in uniform, holding a gun, face covered in dirt and blood. Behind him, fire, destruction. People screaming, a memory from the war, a memory he tried to forget. Suddenly, his reflection moved on its own. It spoke. "You let them die," it whispered. Jake clenched his fists. "I tried to save them. You failed," the mirror Jake said, stepping out of the glass, weapon in hand, eyes full of hate. The trial wasn't a vision. It was real. Jake had to fight himself. His guilt, his past, they clashed metal against metal, pain against memory. But in the end, Jake didn't win by strength. He dropped his weapon and whispered, "I'm done running." The reflection froze, then shattered. The mirror crumbled into dust. A door opened, light spilling in. Trial 1. Passed outside. The sisters waited. Jake stumbled out, blood on his face, clothes torn. Ilara stepped forward, surprised. "You survived," she said, not hiding her shock. Jake looked at her, breathing hard. "What's next?" Sivra smiled strangely. "The second test begins tonight." But that night, something changed. Jake found Sivra alone near the cliffs. Watching the stars, he walked over. "You knew what that test would be." Sivra nodded. "All bonded ones face the mirror, but not all survive." Jake sat beside her. "You're hiding something." Sivra didn't look at him. "We all are." Then she turned, eyes glowing faintly. "I didn't vote for you, Jake." "What?" he asked, confused. "I didn't want you to be chosen," she said. "I wanted someone else." Jake leaned back slowly. "Why tell me now?" Sivra stared into the night. "Because the second test is worse. Deep underground." The sisters led him into a cave. It was wet, echoing, and full of strange light. The walls were covered in ancient writing, moving like liquid. Nexa touched the stone, and the words lit up. Second trial. Trust the liar. A platform rose from the center of the cave. On it stood 2 figures. Both looked like Ilara. Same armor, same eyes, same voice. Jake stepped forward, stunned. "What is this?" "One of them is not real," Nexa said. "One tells truth, one lies." The first Ilara said, "I trained you, protected you, I'm real." The second Ilara said, "I healed you when you were dying. I'm real." They both stared at him. Only one was the real Elara, the other something else. Jake had one question to ask, one choice to make. If he chose wrong, he'd die. If he chose right, he'd move closer to the truth, that something was off. What if both were lying? And if they were, then who had been by his side all along? Secrets and betrayals, Jake chose the second Elara. He didn't trust her eyes. He trusted her silence. And when he spoke her name, the other one screamed and vanished in fire. Trial 2 passed, but the room didn't celebrate. No reward, no cheering, just silence. A heavy kind of silence that made Jake feel colder than before. The sisters led him back to the outpost. No one spoke, even Sivra, who always had something sharp to say, was quiet, and Jake noticed something. One of them was missing. Nexa, the healer, hadn't come out of the cave. Hours passed. Jake waited, watching the desert from his tower, but there was no sign of Nexa. He finally asked, "Where is she?" Elara kept sharpening her blade. Gone. Gone where? She left, said Sivra, her tone flat. She wasn't needed anymore. Jake stood up, angry now. That's it. She saved me twice. Elara looked at him with cold eyes. She made a choice, she said, and not for you. Jake didn't understand, but something in their voices felt wrong, rehearsed, too clean, too easy. Then, that night, his radio crackled, a faint signal, buried under static he almost missed. But then, Jake, if you hear this, don't trust them. His heart froze. It was Nexa's voice, weak, breaking up. Then another sound followed, metal dragging on stone, heavy breathing, and one last whisper. They lied to you about the gate. About everything? And silence. Jake stared at the radio, sweat on his forehead. He turned and saw Elara standing in the doorway, watching him silently. The next morning, Jake acted normal. He pretended not to know, but inside, his mind was racing. Why would Nexa send a secret message? Where was she now? And what did the others lie about? Jake started searching when no one was watching. He went into the sister ship, the one they never let him enter, and deep inside, he found a locked pod. Inside the pod, a second Nexa, frozen, not sleeping, not injured, frozen in cryo. He stared in horror. So the Nexa that healed him, the Nexa that vanished, was never real. He turned and ran, his chest pounding. But before he could leave the ship, someone grabbed him from behind. Sivra. Her voice was soft, but full of warning. You shouldn't be here. Jake pulled away. What is this? Who was she? Sivra didn't answer. She simply said, the third trial begins now. Jake was dragged back into the temple, this time against his will. Chains bound his arms. Elara stood at the top of the ancient altar, her sword glowing red. The trial of truth, she said. No more lies, no more choices. You will see what we truly are. The room darkened and the gate appeared, not fully opened. Not yet, but cracked, and something inside was moving. Sivra stepped forward and placed her hand on Jake's chest, and suddenly memories flooded into him, but not his own. He saw worlds burning. He saw thousands of husbands before him, all chosen, all bonded, all broken. He saw the sisters reborn again and again. Same names, same faces, different lies. He was not the first. He was just the latest. The sisters didn't need love. They needed power. Each bond they created fed the gate. And when the gate fully opened, something ancient would rise, something that once ruled galaxies, now trapped in a prison built by its own people. The sisters were not trying to stop it. They were trying to bring it back. Jake collapsed, gasping. Sivra pulled her hand away. You were never meant to survive all three trials, she whispered. But now you know. Elara walked toward him, her blade ready. It's time to finish this, she said. Jake lay on the floor, broken, betrayed. But as she raised her sword, a bright flash filled the room. Nexa appeared, the real one still weak but alive. She held a strange artifact, glowing blue and humming with ancient power. "You lied to him," she shouted, "but I won't." She threw the artifact into Jake's hands. The glow spread through him, burning away the pain. The gate behind them shook violently. Screams echoed from inside, ancient and furious. The sisters backed away, and Jake stood up, eyes blazing. With new power. "No more lies," he said quietly. "No more trials." The alien gate, the gate was screaming, not with sound, but with energy. The air around Jake shimmered like heat on metal, and the ancient artifact Nexa had thrown him was now fused to his palm. It pulsed in rhythm with the mark the sisters gave him, but this new energy was different, pure, blue, wild, and it was fighting the red glow from the gate. Alara backed away slowly, her blade still raised. "You shouldn't be standing," she said. Jake looked up at her, eyes now glowing with twin colors, red and blue. "Yeah?" He whispered. "Well, I shouldn't be alive either." Nexa was kneeling nearby. Weak from escaping the cryopod, Sivra stood frozen, watching Jake like she didn't recognize him anymore. For the first time, there was fear in her voice. "The gate is responding to you," she said. "It was never supposed to respond like this." Jake stepped forward, the ground cracking under his boots. "What is it?" he asked Nexa. "What's inside that thing?" She looked up, her voice trembling. "It's not a door," she said. "It's a tomb." Jake's breath caught. "Tomb of what?" Nexa stared into the swirling energy. "The first one," she whispered. "A being so powerful it ruled Hoth." "The stars before time even began," Jake blinked. "You mean a god?" "No," she said. "Worse, centuries ago. The alien empires had united to trap this creature inside the gate. They tore their own worlds apart just to build a prison. Strong enough to hold it, but the key, the bond, could only be completed by someone not of their kind. A human, a soldier, a mind that could survive the truth. "You weren't chosen by accident," Nexa said. "You were chosen because the gate saw you." Jake gritted his teeth. "Then why the lies?" he asked, staring at Alara and Sivra. "Why the tests? The fake marriage?" Alara lowered her blade slowly. "Because if we told you the truth, you'd run. Every human before you did," Sivra added. "And they all died anyway." Jake's heart sank. "How many?" Sivra looked away. 49, she whispered. "You're number 50. The gate cracked again. A black mist leaked out, twisting like a living shadow. It moved across the floor toward Jake, but when it touched the blue light on his palm, it screamed and pulled back. Jake stared at his hand. The artifact had burned into his skin, shaping into a symbol. A circle with 2 wings inside. "What is this?" Nexa smiled faintly. "Hope." The gate had been fed by lies, power, blood, and betrayal. But now it was facing something new balance. Jake was both bonded and broken, chosen and cursed. He wasn't just a key, he was the counterweight. Suddenly, the gate exploded outward, not fully opening, but wide enough to reveal what waited inside. And Jake saw it, the first one. Not a body, not even a shape, just eyes. Thousands of glowing eyes, staring at him from the void. "You?" It spoke. Its voice was everywhere, in his ears, in his bones, in his dreams. "You are not worthy." Jake stood firm. "Too bad," he replied. "I'm not asking permission." The gate shuddered. Chains of light whipped from its core, grabbing. The walls, the ground, the air, everything around them trembled, including the sisters. Sivra dropped to one knee, whispering in an ancient tongue. Alara looked torn, ready to fight, but unsure what side she was on. Nexa reached out and touched Jake's arm. "You can stop it," she said, "but you have to go inside." Jake looked at the swirling mass of eyes, fire and shadows. "Inside that?" She nodded. The last bonded one who tried didn't come back. Jake clenched his fists. I'm not him. He turned to Alara and Sivra. If I don't come back, he said, shut it down no matter what. Alara gave a small nod. Understood. Jake stepped forward, and the gate accepted him. He vanished in a burst of light inside the gate. Time stopped, space bent. Jake floated through memories that weren't his wars. Betrayals, galaxies consumed. The first one spoke again, louder this time. You will serve me. Jake answered. No. The light inside him began to grow. He saw the faces of the fallen humans before him. He saw Nexus tears, Ilara's blade, Sivra's eyes, and he understood. He wasn't here to open the gate. He was here to lock it from the inside. Back in the real world, the sisters watched as the gate's light turned white. Then silence. The eyes vanished. The mist dissolved. The gate closed, gone. And so was Jake. Alara dropped her blade. Sivra turned her face away. Nexa collapsed in tears. He had chosen them, and they had lost him, or had they? Because on the ground where Jake had stood, the symbol of balance still glowed. Blue and red, waiting, asterisk, war or love. The gate had closed. But the sky was not quiet. From orbit, a shadow grew. Massive alien ships, shaped like wings and thorns, descended over the horizon. They weren't here for peace. They were here for revenge. The Empire of Varex had arrived, and they had one message for the sisters. Return the bonded one or face extinction. But Jake was gone, lost inside the gate, trapped in light and memory. And now, the universe wanted blood. Ilara stood before the transmission, armor glowing red. She didn't flinch, even as her own people called her a traitor. You bonded with a human, the voice from the mothership said. You gave him the power of the gate. Sivra stood beside her, silent for once. Her mind burned with images of Jake, his defiance, his courage. She had seen his soul, and she couldn't forget it. Only Nexa spoke, her voice shaking. He saved us all. He sealed. The first one inside again. The reply from the Empire was cold. Then why does the gate still glow? They were right. The gate, though sealed, still pulsed with faint light. Something inside was still alive, or trying to come back, and some believed Jake had become part of it. The sisters were given a choice. Deliver the bonded one's remains, or be declared enemies of the throne. But they didn't have remains, no body, no ashes. Just the mark he left on the ground burning brighter every day. Later that night, Sivra entered Jake's old room. She ran her fingers across the bed, the console, the rifle he left behind. She closed her eyes, trying not to cry. But then she felt something, a whisper, a voice inside her mind that did not belong to her. I'm not dead, she gasped. Fell to her knees. Ilara, she screamed. Come here now. Ilara rushed in, blade ready. What happened? Sivra grabbed her wrist. He's alive. Ilara's eyes widened. Inside the gate? Sivra nodded. He spoke to me. Not with words, but through the bond. They returned to the gate chamber. The mark on the ground was brighter now. Nexa placed her hand over it, and her healing glow shimmered. A voice echoed not aloud, but in their minds. 3 hearts, 1 purpose, still burning. Jake. He was still connected to them, but trapped, deeper than anyone had ever gone, not dead, becoming something else. And the gate sealed from one side could only be opened again. From within, back in orbit, the Empire gave its final order. Destroy the sisters and purge the outpost. A fleet of drones descended like black rain. Lasers charged, targeting systems locked. Ilara raised her sword. Sivra formed a psychic shield. Nexa channeled her healing light into a glowing barrier. The 3 stood together, facing the full wrath of their own empire. Alone, they were strong, but together, they were unstoppable. The first wave hit. Explosions rocked the outpost. Fire lit the desert. Elara leapt through the air. Slashing drones mid-flight, Sivra overloaded enemy mines, sending them crashing into rocks. Nexa kept them alive, her light sealing every wound as fast as it appeared. But it wasn't enough. They were outnumbered, and slowly they were being pushed back. Then the gate pulsed once, twice, then a shock wave tore through the battlefield. Everything stopped, time itself seemed to pause. And from the center of the gate, a figure walked out, burned, cracked, glowing like a star barely holding together. It was Jake, but changed, no longer just human, no longer just a soldier. He was the living seal, part man, part energy, part memory of every soul that ever touched the gate. His eyes burned blue and red. His voice echoed in every mind. Enough. With a wave of his hand, the drones fell from the sky like broken glass. The Empire's ships above flickered, powerless. And the gate behind him turned black silent for the first time in ages. The sisters ran to him. Elara dropped her blade. Sivra touched his face in awe. Nexa wept openly. Jake looked at them, smiling faintly. "I heard you," he said. "All of you. You didn't give up on me." He stepped forward and collapsed. Nexa caught him before he hit the ground. He was alive, but fading fast. The gate had taken most of him, and now it was trying to take what was left. They carried him to the shrine chamber. There, Nexa placed him inside a healing pod. Sivra linked her mind to his to keep him anchored. Elara stood guard, blade drawn, eyes never blinking. Above them, the Empire's fleet retreated. They had seen enough. They now knew the gate couldn't be opened by power, only by love, sacrifice, and trust. The sisters chose war, and found love. Jake chose death, and found purpose, but the gate still whispered, and what lay beyond it was not finished. No takebacks, stars were silent. The gate was quiet, and Jake Harper was dying. Inside the healing pod, his body barely moved, but inside his mind, he was drifting, not in dreams, but in memories. Memories that weren't his. He saw worlds, long dead, kings who ruled galaxies, lovers who betrayed each other in the name of destiny. And in every vision, there was the same voice. The first one, still trapped. But waiting, outside, the sisters watched over him. Elara sat on guard, her sword across her knees. Sivra kept her mind linked to his, monitoring every flicker of thought. And Nexa poured every drop of healing energy she had left into the pod. But something was wrong. The gate, though closed, was glowing again, pulsing, breathing, like it was waking up, like it had never truly slept. Suddenly, Jake gasped. His eyes snapped open, burning bright. Not red, not blue, but white, a light that didn't belong to this world. He stood up slowly. The healing pod cracked open, as if afraid to hold him, and for a moment, no one spoke, not even the wind. Then Jake said one word, "It's back." The sisters stood frozen. "What do you mean?" Elara asked. Jake turned to face the gate. "The first one didn't need to escape," he said. "It just needed a vessel. And now, that vessel was him." Sivra stepped forward. "You're not him anymore?" Jake nodded slowly. "I'm both," he said. "Jake Harper, and something older." Nexa's voice cracked. "Can we separate it?" Jake looked down at his hands, glowing with power. "No," he said, "but I can control it. For now." But there was one problem. The Empire was returning, not with weapons, but with a new offer. A message appeared on their screens. "We acknowledge the bonded one as a god form. Submit to the Empire and rule beside us." Jake read the message with a bitter smile. "They want to use me," he said. "Turn me into a symbol, a weapon." Elara growled. "We should destroy them." Sivra nodded. "Or disappear forever." But Nexa said nothing. She stared at the gate, then at Jake. She saw something the others didn't. Something hidden in his eyes. A countdown. Jake was running out of time. The first one was awake. Inside him, and the more Jake used the power, the stronger it became soon. It wouldn't be Jake standing there. It would be the ancient god, wearing his face. Jake turned to the sisters. "There's only one way to stop this," he said. "I have to go back into the gate." Elara stepped forward. "We won't let you." Sivra shook her head. "You just came back." Nexa grabbed his arm, tears in her eyes. "There has to be another way." Jake smiled, tired but calm. "There's not. You gave me everything," he said. "All of you. Now it's my turn." He walked to the gate one last time. It opened for him, silent, cold, endless. But before stepping through, he turned. "I was never just your husband," he said. "I was your mirror, your hope, and your mistake then." He smiled. "But you were my family." He stepped into the gate, and this time he didn't close it. The sisters ran forward screaming, but they were too late. The gate exploded in light. Not fire, not energy, but memories, thousands of them, every bonded one, every fallen soldier, every forgotten name, returned for one last breath of freedom. Then the gate folded in on itself and vanished, gone forever. Silence fell. The Empire's ships stopped in orbit. Their sensors showed nothing. No gate, no threat, and no Jake. Days passed, then weeks. The sisters stayed on the planet, built a monument where the gate once stood, and carved 3 words in stone: nitrogen monoxide takebacks. It was once a joke, then a threat, but now it was a promise that love meant risk, that power meant sacrifice, and that sometimes a man could marry into a war and end it. One night, Sivra woke up from a dream. Jake's voice echoed in her mind again. "I left a piece of me behind." She opened her hand. Inside was a small glowing fragment. It pulsed once, then again. He was still with him, not as a husband, not as a warrior, but as the fire that would protect their world forever.